Okay, so what was your inspiration for the cutting edge piece?
Well, Cutting Edge was first commissioned in about 2000, and the task that we were given was to create a piece of public sculpture that would also have a practical element to it. And the practicality was to direct people from the railway station up Howard Street to the centre of the city. So I suppose what we wanted to create was an object that people would want to get near to and walk past and was experienced as they passed it.
The previous sculpture on that site was made of bronze, so what made you want to use stainless steel for your one?
I didn't actually know there was a sculpture there made of bronze, but stainless steel, it just struck us. I mean, we wanted to use steel, I think, because Sheffield is synonymous with steel around the world. And we considered Corten steel or stainless. And I think for a number of reasons, stainless steel is more easily maintained in a public environment. There's no colour that will come off on people's clothes, etc., etc. And Sheffield is the home of stainless steel, after all. And after long discussion and thought, it was the obvious material to make that kind of piece out of.
How did you find stainless steel as a material to work with?
Stainless steel is an odd material. I've spent most of my practical metalworking experience working with silver, and silver is an extraordinary metal. It's very malleable, it's very ductile, and yet it can be made very hard by working. Stainless steel does not have quite those same properties at all. It's fairly unforgiving, and it has to be worked in an entirely stainless steel environment, so that you cannot use tools, or you can't use a workshop that has been used for any other type of steel, or you will contaminate it. And once it's contaminated, to a large extent, you can't save it. It's difficult to work with, but the properties that make it difficult also make it hugely beneficial and long-lasting.
What do you hope that people will take when they see the piece, take from the piece?
I think when people see Cutting Edge, they will, first of all, they'll just be, I suppose, impressed by the sweep of the curvature and the shape and the scale, the way that it fits into the landscape, the way that it hugs the contour of the ground and goes up the hill. I hope that they will enjoy the sound of it. The feel of it. Not necessarily that I'd encourage people to kind of touch it too much, but I think really I would hope that people would see, hear, feel, and just kind of enjoy being next to it, walking past it.
How strong do you think the ties are between Sheffield and stainless steel, and are they as strong as they once were?
Well, I'm not that old, so I don't know what they were, the ties between stainless steel and Sheffield were decades ago. But certainly around the world, I think stainless steel is a material now that is used globally. And those people who use it are, I'm sure, aware that it comes from Sheffield. Originally it came from Sheffield. I know the 2013 anniversary of the discovery of stainless steel is recognised around the world, and Sheffield is a focus this year for that. And I think, yes, Sheffield has a heritage of steel making. Stainless steel is one of the most successful products that it discovered or invented, and the ties are very strong.
How did you end up being the sculptor, or one of the sculptors for this piece?
I was one of three sculptors on the piece. There was Chris Knight and Keith Tyson, who were partners with me in the project. I was originally contacted by somebody from the Sheffield City Council when they were planning the whole of the Sheaf Square development, saying that they would like a public art component in it. I'd done a little bit of public art pieces previously in Sheffield, and clearly what they wanted was a large, iconic piece. So I contacted Chris Knight and Keith Tyson as colleagues of mine and said, I think we ought to be doing this as a group rather than one person working on it. And it developed from there.
What's the significance between the difference of how it looks during the day and how it looks by night?
Well, obviously, with a piece that's as public as Cutting Edge, one has to be aware that it is there during the day and during the night. It's there in winter as well as in summer. There are practical considerations to how you make a piece that will become sustainable in all sorts of different conditions. For example, when it heats up, when it's during the summer and the sun is on it, potentially I think it can be 150 millimetres longer than it is in the cool of the evening. So if people were to look at it, they will notice that it is made up of lots of separate panels with gaps in between the panels, and those gaps are expansion and contraction joints. During the night, it's lit. During the day, it relies on the sunlight, and you get the reflection of the railway station, or rather, I suppose, to a certain extent, depending on where you view it from. During the daytime, the water runs down the inner surface of it, the Sheaf Square side rather than the road side. The water is turned off in the middle of the night. It doesn't run all night. And it doesn't run when the air temperature is below, I think, 1 degree. Because obviously the freezing water on the surface would damage it. But I hope that it's as spectacular and as interesting in all conditions that it's seen.
How do you feel about the man of steel, and do you think it's important to reinforce the relationship between Sheffield and stainless steel?
I think it's extremely important that Sheffield makes its name heard around the world as being the place where stainless steel was discovered. And I think it's important to note as well that Sheffield is still a major producer of these highly specialised steels. And any piece of artwork and sculpture that can pay homage to that or reference it, I think is important.
Are there any other stainless steel buildings or sculptures in Sheffield that stand out to you?
Stainless steel is used across the industrial and building map of Sheffield, same as it is in most cities in the Western world these days. It's used both for detail and in major component parts. So, for example, the Sheffield Hallam Hub building, I think it's an extremely interesting building, and I think it is interesting when you come out of the railway station and you see that in the background behind Cutting Edge. I like the railings in Castle Square, mainly because I designed them, but I'm interested to see that they were designed in the mid-1990s, so they're nearly 20 years old. And I think it's a testament to the use of a material like stainless steel. That it's a fairly hostile environment, Castle Square. There's a lot of traffic that goes around it, there's lots of people. It's potentially a grubby inner city area, and yet the stainless steel after 20 years is remarkably untouched. I'm sure there are other examples of stainless steel in Sheffield that, if I could bring them to mind at this particular moment, I would compliment people on.
What impact do you think your sculpture has made on Sheffield?
I don't think, as sculptors, it's not really for, or as artists, it's not really for the individual artist to really comment on what the effect of their work has been. And that's not just false modesty, I think, because as the maker or designer or creator of a piece, you do tend to view it rather differently from other people. I use the railway station quite a lot. My workshop's not far from the railway station, so I often actually walk past it. And I do find it very gratifying that I see a lot of people having a photograph taken in front of it, people standing there just looking at it, people kind of putting their fingers in the water and just kind of wondering at the scale of it. Because particularly at the railway station end, it does tower above you, and as you get quite close to it, there is a kind of feeling rather than just a visual impact that you get. And I think that generally speaking, people are very complimentary, which is good. I mean, I see really no great benefit in producing pieces that people don't have an affection for. And I think Cutting Edge, perhaps against some people's expectations, because it is very large, and it is, to coin a phrase, in your face. I mean, it's very hard to ignore. And I think I'm very gratified that most people seem to enjoy it being there.
And what are your feelings about being part of something so iconic to the city, so iconic in the city?
Well, I suppose as an artist, when you start your career, you're aware of other artists whose work has had an impact on you, and you're aware that their work has had an impact on society or culture in a broader sense. And you have aspiration that maybe some of your work might indeed have that similar effect. And even if you make a piece of public work in one city and it has an effect, that's not the opportunity that most people get. And I'm extremely happy and gratified that I had the chance to make such a large public piece, and that it's still there.